dare enter, a place forgotten by time, where shadows breathe, and the dead still remember. Sit, watch, and do not look away.
The bed arrived on a rainy Thursday. It came wrapped in thick, moth-eaten canvas, delivered by two silent men in dark uniforms who barely spoke a word as they maneuvered the thing into my second-floor bedroom. No paperwork, no explanation, just a brief nod from one of them before they disappeared back into the storm. I hadn't ordered a bed, hadn't ordered anything, but there it was. Massive, heavy, ancient. Its carved wooden frame was blackened with age, twisted into shapes that seemed to squirm when you weren't looking directly at them. The headboard was a single slab of dark oak, so tall it nearly touched the ceiling. A sprawling tapestry of vines, faces, and writhing bodies frozen mid-scream. At the center of the headboard, a symbol had been carved deep into the wood, a knot of interwoven lines that hurt to look at, like a tangle of thorns and teeth. The mattress, when unwrapped, exhaled a cloud of dust and a smell so thick, so fetid, it made my stomach churn. Rot, old sweat, and something else, something sharp and metallic. Blood, maybe. I should have gotten rid of it immediately. Dragged it out into the rain and burned it. But I didn't. I told myself it was curiosity. Told myself it was laziness. Told myself it was just a bed. But deep down I knew. Something about it wanted me to keep it. And I did. I stripped the old mattress off, tossed it into the yard, and replaced it with a new one from the guest room. It didn't help. The frame itself seemed to pulse with a slow, aching hunger. At first night, the dreams began. I lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain clawing at the windows. Sleep came in fits and starts, shallow, fevered. In my dreams, I stood at the foot of the bed, staring at the writhing carvings in the headboard. They moved when I blinked. The vines twisted into arms. The faces opened wide, screaming soundlessly. The knot at the center bled black ichor that dripped down the frame and soaked into the floor. I tried to run. Tried to wake up. But my legs refused to move. I was rooted to the spot, as if the floorboards themselves had grown fingers and wrapped around my ankles. And from the shadows behind the bed, something stirred. Something vast and slow and hungry. I woke gasping, drenched in cold sweat. The rain had stopped. The house was silent. But the bed felt warmer somehow, as if it had been feeding on me while I slept. I told myself it was stress. Work had been brutal. Money was tight. Loneliness gnawed at the edges of my mind like rats in the walls. It made sense. Stress dreams. Nothing more. I changed the sheets, opened the windows, burned sage. Told myself it was just a piece of wood. A relic from another time. A thing without power. Without meaning. But even as I did it, even as I scrubbed the headboard with bleach and muttered half-remembered prayers under my breath, the knot at the center seemed to writhe, just a little. Just enough to let me know it was watching. Waiting. The second night was worse. The dreams came quicker, sharper. No slow drift into fevered half-sleep this time. I lay down, closed my eyes, and I was back at the foot of the bed. But now, the room was different. The walls bled black tar. The windows were gone, replaced by yawning holes that breathed in and out like open wounds. The ceiling sagged under the weight of unseen things, their nails scraping and clicking just above my head. The bed loomed before me, monstrous and alive. The vines writhed openly now, slithering across the floor toward my feet. The faces in the headboard twisted in wet black tears. The knot pulsed, each throb sending ripples through the floorboards. And from behind the bed, a hand. Small. Pale. Childlike. It gripped the frame and pulled forward, and the thing that followed was not a child. It wore the shape of one, yes. But its proportions were wrong. Its joints bent backward, its mouth stretched too wide, stitched closed with black, glistening wire. It crawled onto the bed like a spider, limbs cracking and popping. And it smiled at me. Not with its mouth. With its eyes. I woke screaming. The sheets were tangled around me like a cocoon. The room was freezing, my breath visible in the air. The windows were open. I was sure, absolutely certain, that I had closed them before bed. A gust of cold wind rattled the door on its hinges. I stumbled out of bed, heart hammering, and slammed the window shut. The rain had started again, heavier now. The night pressed against the glass like a living thing, dense and suffocating. I turned back toward the bed. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw the outline of something under the covers. Something small. Something waiting. I didn't sleep again that night. I sat in the corner of the room, crowbar in hand, staring at the bed until dawn. The knot in the headboard seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat. I should have left. Should have burned the bed, the house, everything I owned. Should have run until my legs gave out, until the memory of the bed was nothing more than a bad dream. But I didn't. Because by then, it was already too late. The bed had its hooks in me. And it wasn't letting go. Not ever. The third night, the house changed. It wasn't just the dreams anymore. It was real. Small things at first. The hallway seemed longer when I got up to fetch a glass of water. The bathroom mirror showed a slight delay in my reflection, like an old broken film reel struggling to keep up. The floorboards groaned in ways they hadn't before, not just underfoot, but in slow, deliberate patterns, as if someone was pacing the house at night. And the bed. Always the bed. It loomed in the center of my existence, an anchor dragging me deeper into something I didn't understand. I tried to avoid it. Slept on the couch downstairs. At least I tried. The first night I stayed away, the tapping started. Soft at first. Somewhere upstairs. Like a child's fingertips drumming lightly on the wood. I turned up the TV, pretending not to hear. The tapping grew louder. Heavier. Moving down the stairs, one slow beat at a time. I muted the television, holding my breath. Silence. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. And then, a single knock at the living room door. Not the front door. The door leading back into the hall. The door that led upstairs. Another knock. And another. Slow, insistent, patient. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The doorknob rattled. I could see it from where I sat, shaking back and forth as if a small trembling hand was trying to turn it. I squeezed my eyes shut. Counted to 10. When I opened them, the doorknob was still. But something had changed. The air. It felt heavier, thicker, tinged with the faint, metallic taste of blood. I didn't sleep that night either. Eventually, I passed out from sheer exhaustion, head slumped against the arm of the couch, crowbar resting loosely in my lap. When I awoke, sometime around dawn, the door to the hallway was wide open. And in the center of the living room floor, placed carefully and deliberately, was one of the pillows from the bed. Its case was torn. And across the white fabric, in jagged childlike scrawl, were the words, "Come back." I left the house that day. Packed a duffel bag with whatever I could grab in 5 frantic minutes and bolted. Didn't lock the door. Didn't look back. I drove for hours. No destination in mind. Just away. As far as I could get. The roads twisted and blurred. Gas stations. Diners. Cheap motels. I kept moving. Kept breathing. Told myself I was free. That night, I checked into a roadside motel somewhere off Highway 22. The place was a dump, sagging roof, flickering vacancy sign, carpets that reeked of mildew, but it was far. Far from the house. Far from the bed. I locked the door, bolted the windows, propped a chair under the doorknob for good measure. I lay down on the lumpy mattress, staring at the stained ceiling, and told myself over and over, "You're safe. You're safe. You're safe." Eventually, I drifted off. I woke to find myself standing. Not in the motel room. Not anywhere I recognized. I stood at the foot of the bed. That bed. The twisted vines. The weeping faces. The writhing knot at the center. All of it. Exactly as it had been. Exactly as it had waited. The room around it was endless, a sea of shifting black mist that swallowed everything beyond a few feet. There was no ceiling. No floor. Only the bed. And me. And her. She stood at the head of the bed this time. The girl. Or what wore her shape. She was clearer now. No longer blurred at the edges. Every crack in her porcelain skin. Every twist in her too thin limbs. Every stitch across her too wide mouth. She lifted her hand. And pointed. Directly at me. The mattress rippled. Something moved beneath the sheets, slow, sinuous, massive. The knot at the center of the headboard pulsed. Once. Twice. A third time. And with each pulse, the thing under the covers grew more restless. The sheets strained against it. I stumbled back, heart hammering. But there was nowhere to run. No doors. No windows. Only the endless dark. Only the bed. Only her. The girl's stitched mouth split open, seams tearing with a wet, sticky sound. She grinned at me. A grin full of teeth too sharp, too many. And she spoke. In a voice that wasn't hers. In a voice that was hundreds of voices layered into one. Come back. The thing under the sheets surged. The bed creaked and groaned. The vines on the headboard twisted faster, reaching outward. I ran. Nowhere to run to. No direction. Only blind, desperate motion into the mist. The world twisted around me, the dark folding inward like a closing fist. And then I woke. Gasping. Sweating. Back in the motel room. The door was still bolted. The chair still wedged under the knob. The windows still locked. But on the bed beside me, a single pillow. White, torn, stained, and scrawled across it in the same jagged, desperate hand. You can't leave. I left the motel before sunrise. Didn't bother checking out. Didn't bother packing. I drove with white-knuckled hands on the wheel, the road unspooling before me in endless, flickering lines. I didn't know where I was going. Didn't care. Just away. But some part of me already knew the truth. There was no away anymore. Everywhere I went, it followed. Not the bed itself, no. The presence. The hunger. Mirrors in gas station bathrooms distorted my reflection, showing a stranger's face just behind my shoulder. Children clung to their parents and screamed when I passed. Dogs whimpered and hid. Shadows shifted under street lights. And always, somewhere just at the edge of hearing, that slow rhythmic tapping. Like fingers drumming on wood. Like nails clicking on a headboard. Like something waiting. I found a cheap rental cabin deep in the woods. Paid cash. No ID. No questions. A place no one would find me. A place maybe to finally get some sleep. The cabin was bare bones, a single room, a bed, a cracked sink, an ancient wood stove. The mattress was sagging, the frame crooked, but it didn't matter. It wasn't that bad. I pulled my jacket tighter around me and lay down without bothering to undress. The cabin creaked and groaned around me, the wind moaning through the trees. For the first time in days, my eyes grew heavy. Sleep came fast. Too fast. I woke in darkness. Not the cabin. Not anywhere real. I stood once again at the foot of the bed. The real bed. The cursed bed. The bed that had never needed walls or doors, or even reality to trap me. The black knot at the center of the headboard pulsed, a slow, steady heartbeat. The sheets twisted and writhed as something massive shifted beneath them. And there she was. The girl. Standing beside the bed, waiting. Her stitched mouth split wide. And she spoke. Not in words. Not this time. In images. Flashes of memory seared into my mind. My hand on the headboard, the symbol burning into my skin. My dreams sinking deeper, night after night, into something not my own. The mattress rising and falling as it breathed, inhaling me into its endless hunger. Faces trapped in the wood, screaming silently, reaching for help that would never come. My own reflection, hollow-eyed and smiling, standing behind me. She didn't need to say it. I understood. The bed wasn't just cursed. It wasn't haunted. It was a gate. A mouth. A seed. Planted wherever it could find fertile ground. And it had found me. I stumbled backward. The ground wasn't ground anymore. Only mist. Only endless black. The bed loomed larger, swallowing the world. The girl lifted her hand again, palm outward. The vines carved into the headboard twisted, stretched outward, reaching for me. I turned and ran. The mist parted, revealing a corridor, endless, narrow, lined with doors. Each door was a copy of my bedroom door. Each door whispered as I passed. Come back. Come home. Stay with us. I slammed my eyes shut and ran blindly, feeling the doors thrum against my skin as I passed. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, more desperate. And then, a door opened ahead of me. Wide. Welcoming. The bed sat beyond it, waiting. The girl stood at its foot, arms outstretched. I skidded to a halt. Turned. Another door opened behind me, another copy of my bedroom. And another. And another. Each one leading back. Each one a trap. The realization hit me like a blow. There was no escape. Not by running. Not by hiding. The bed had sunk its roots into me. Into my dreams. Into my soul. The only way out was through. Through the bed. Through the thing that waited beyond it. I stepped forward. The vines slithered toward me. The mattress heaved. The knot in the headboard throbbed faster, faster, matching the frantic drumbeat of my heart. The girl's arms stretched impossibly wide, welcoming me into her broken embrace. I took another step. And another. Until I stood at the foot of the bed. Face to face with whatever had chosen me. Whatever had been feeding on me. The bed groaned under its own weight. The air thickened, buzzing like a swarm of unseen insects. The girl's stitched mouth opened wider and wider, until it split her face clean in half. And from the wound, not blood, not bone, but darkness. liquid and living, pouring out of her and onto the bed, soaking the mattress, the frame, the floor. And still she waited. Still, she beckoned. Still, she whispered. Come back. I reached out. My fingers brushed the knot at the center of the headboard. The moment I touched it, the world exploded. The world dissolved around me. The mist swallowed everything, the bed, the girl, even the endless doors. I fell through it all, tumbling weightless, my mind tearing at the seams. There was no up, no down, no time. Only falling. Only the endless black. And somewhere deep within that blackness, something laughed. Soft at first. Then louder. A sound like wood splintering, like nails dragged across stone. A sound that wasn't made by anything human. When I landed, it wasn't with a jolt. It was slow, like sinking into wet earth. I clawed my way upright, gasping, the air thick as syrup. I stood in a vast field. A field made entirely of beds. Thousands of them. Stretching to the horizon in every direction. Each one different, old iron frames, cribs, hospital gurneys, rotting mattresses sagging with unseen weight. Some beds rocked gently, creaking as if occupied by restless sleepers. Others lay still, silent, dead. Above, the sky churned, black clouds boiling across a blood-red backdrop. The ground beneath my feet pulsed, a slow heartbeat that vibrated through my bones. And somewhere, impossibly far and impossibly near, the knot pulsed in rhythm. Calling me. I staggered forward, weaving through the endless graveyard of beds. Some were empty. Most were not. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught glimpses, a figure curled under stained sheets, twitching. A child strapped to a crib, eyes wide, mouth sewn shut. A woman lying stiff as a corpse, her hair splayed out like roots into the mattress. They didn't move when I passed, but their eyes followed me. Every single one. Hollow, accusing, hungry. I didn't know where I was going. Only that I had to move. Had to find the source. Had to end it. If I stayed still, if I let the beds close in, I knew I'd never move again. I would be one of them. Another sleeper. Another piece of the endless nightmare. As I pushed deeper into the field, the air grew thicker, harder to breathe. The beds shifted, twisted, rearranged themselves when I wasn't looking. No matter which way I turned, the horizon never came closer. I was trapped in an infinite loop, a maze of dreams and dead things. The realization hit like a hammer. The bed wasn't just a curse. It was a prison, built from fear, from memory, from the broken pieces of everyone it had ever touched. And it was growing, feeding, becoming something bigger than the house, bigger than the town, bigger than anything I could comprehend. I dropped to my knees, gasping. My hands sank into the ground, not earth, but fabric. Old, damp sheets that clung to my skin like cobwebs. Beneath them, something moved. Something with too many legs. I yanked my hands free and stumbled upright. The world tilted. The beds groaned in unison, a terrible, shuddering sound like bones grinding against bones. And then, a voice. Soft. Close. Lay down. I turned. The girl stood behind me. No longer stitched. No longer cracked. She was whole now. Beautiful, in a brittle, terrifying way. Her skin glowed faintly, the color of moonlight on dead flesh. Her eyes, wide, black, endless, locked onto mine. She lifted a hand, pointed to the nearest bed. An empty one. Sheets pristine, pillows fluffed, waiting. Rest, she whispered. Stay. I shook my head. Took a step back. The ground shifted, beds rising around me like walls. Trapping me. Boxing me in. The girl stepped closer. Her smile was sad. Almost fleeting. You're tired, she said. So tired. And it was true. God, it was true. Every muscle in my body screamed. My eyes burned. My bones ached with a weariness that went beyond the physical, a soul-deep exhaustion that made the idea of lying down, of giving up, almost unbearably tempting. Just one step. Just one more step. And it would all be over. I waver. The bed looked so inviting. So soft. So final. The girl reached out, her hand inches from mine. Her touch would be cold, I knew. But maybe that wouldn't matter. Maybe nothing would matter. Maybe. A flicker. A memory. Marcus. Driving through the mist. The look in his eyes, hollow but burning with stubborn, stupid defiance. He hadn't given up. Not even when the house had torn him apart. Not even when it had broken him. He had fought. And so would I. With a roar, I turned and ran. Plowed through the beds, sheets tearing, frames collapsing. The girl screamed behind me, a shriek of rage and hunger that shook the sky. The beds writhed and buckled. Hands shot up from beneath the mattresses, clawing at my ankles, my wrists, trying to pull me down. I kicked and stumbled and clawed my way forward. Toward the horizon. Toward whatever waited beyond this nightmare. Because there had to be something beyond it. There had to be. I wouldn't believe otherwise. I couldn't. The beds thinned. The mist lightened. Ahead, something loomed. A structure. Massive. Impossible. The true heart of the bed's world. And whatever it was, I was going to reach it. Or die trying. The structure rose from the mist like a black monolith. It was not a house. Not a building. It was a throne. A vast, crumbling monument built entirely of beds, stacked, fused, twisted together like the bones of some ancient rotting beast. Cribs, hospital cots, iron frames, all melded into a grotesque mountain of decay. At its peak sat a bed larger than any other. The bed. The original. The source. Its headboard stretched into the mist, vanishing into darkness. The symbol, that writhing knot, pulsed at its center like a diseased heart, spilling black veins across every surface. The air around it shimmered, alive with whispers and flickering shadows. The ground trembled with each pulse, each breath, each call. I moved forward, step by agonizing step. The air grew colder, thicker. Each inhale tasted of mildew and old blood. The beds at the base of the throne shifted as I passed, frames twisting, sheets ripping themselves to shreds, springs snapping like broken bones. From the corners of my vision, hands reached out, skeletal, childlike, pleading. I didn't stop, didn't look back. If I did, I knew I'd never move again. As I climbed the broken mound of beds, the whispers grew louder. They weren't words anymore, just sensations. Memories. Guilt. Regret. Every mistake I had ever made. Every person I had ever failed. Every fear I had ever buried. They unspooled around me in suffocating waves. The weight of it pressed down, each step heavier than the last. Halfway up, I stumbled. Fell hard against a rusted crib frame. It bit into my side, tearing fabric, drawing blood. I hissed through gritted teeth and forced myself upright. The bed at the summit throbbed, faster now, sensing my weakness. Welcoming it. Shapes flickered in the mist. Children. Dozens of them. Their faces pale and cracked, their mouths stitched or broken open in silent screams. They clung to the sides of the throne, watching. Waiting. Not to stop me. Not to help me. But because they knew what was coming. They had seen it before. Again and again. Endless cycles of hunger and hope and despair. I climbed higher. The mist thinned. The sky above churned with oily clouds, black and green and sickly yellow. The symbol at the center of the headboard flared, a heartbeat made of knives. The top was close now. So close I could taste it, coppery, metallic, thick on my tongue. But with every step, the bed fought harder. The frames beneath my feet shifted and bucked. Hands clawed at my ankles. Voices rose into a crescendo of pleading and screaming and laughter. And through it all, the girl watched, standing just below the summit. Her arms hanging limp at her sides. Her head tilted in that broken, puppet-like way. Her stitched mouth opened, and she spoke without sound. Last chance. I hesitated. Not because I wanted to. Because part of me, the small, tired part that still remembered warmth, sleep, safety, wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe that I could lie down. Close my eyes. Forget that surrender could be peace. But peace was a lie. There was no peace here. Only hunger. Only decay. Only death. And if I gave in, I wouldn't just die. I would become part of it. Another face in the wood. Another whisper in the mist. Another link in the endless, gnawing chain. I clenched my fists until my nails bit into my palms. Took a breath. Took a step. The girl's head snapped upright. The ground shuddered. The mist screamed. I pushed forward. One step. Another. Another. Until I stood before her. Face to face. The girl stared up at me, those endless black eyes reflecting my own broken face. And then, slowly, almost sadly, she stepped aside, revealing the final stretch. The final climb. The heart of it all. Waiting. The bed was massive up close. Its wood was alive, twisting and breathing with each pulse of the knot at its center. The mattress was a pit, sagging inward, as if weighed down by the countless souls it had devoured. The headboard towered over me, a cathedral of rot and suffering. And at the center, the knot. It pulsed faster now, desperate. Beckoning. I stepped forward. Closer. Closer. The knot stretched, splitting open like a wound. A hole yawned at the heart of the bed, a spiral of darkness leading down, down, down into places no mind should see. And from within that spiral, a voice. Soft. Familiar. My mother's voice. "Come back, baby. It's safe now." I choked on a sob. Tears blurred my vision. Because I knew it wasn't her. It never had been. But oh God, how I wanted it to be true. How I wanted, just for one moment, to step into that spiral and feel arms wrap around me. To be held. To be loved. To be safe. But love doesn't smell like rot. And safety doesn't taste like blood. And my mother's arms never had claws. I raised the crowbar. The same battered weapon I'd carried through every nightmare. Every illusion. Every scream. And with every ounce of strength I had left, I drove it into the heart of the knot. The world exploded. The moment the crowbar pierced the knot, the world came apart at the seams. The throne of beds collapsed inward, a tidal wave of splintered wood and rusted iron cascading down the hill, swallowing everything in its path. The mist howled, shredding itself into ribbons. The sky cracked open, not with light, but with a deeper blackness, a void so complete it swallowed the stars. I was torn from the mound, hurled into the spiral mouth that gaped in the heart of the bed. There was no falling. No rising. No direction at all. Only the endless spinning, pulling, devouring. And at the center of it, a heartbeat. Not mine. Not human. Something older. something endless. When I landed, I expected pain. Expected to shatter like glass. But the impact was soft, too soft. I sank into something warm, wet, and pulsing. The ground throbbed beneath me, slick and yielding like muscle and sinew. I staggered upright, the crowbar somehow still clutched in my bleeding hand. The world around me was unrecognizable. A landscape of flesh, towers of bone, rivers of thick, black ichor winding through valleys of shriveled, twitching skin. The air stank of rot and burning hair. And overhead, the sky wasn't sky. It was a vast, endless canopy of flesh, veined and twitching, oozing droplets of dark fluid that hissed where they struck the ground. I was inside it. Inside the bed. Inside the thing that had worn the bed like a mask. Its true form. Its true body. And somewhere in this nightmare, the core. The true heart. If I could find it, if I could destroy it, maybe I could still escape. Maybe. The ground shifted under my feet, rising and falling like the breathing of a colossal beast. I moved forward, stumbling through the muck, each step a battle against the clanging sucking ground. Shapes loomed in the distance. Structures made of bone and sinew. Cages. I approached one, cautiously, heart hammering. Inside, twisted and bound by ropes of glistening muscle, was a figure. Human, or something close to it. Its mouth was stitched shut. Its eyes were wide with terror and agony. It reached for me with broken, trembling fingers, a silent plea for help. I stepped back, bile rising in my throat. I couldn't save them. Not now. Maybe not ever. All I could do was move forward. Toward the core. Toward the end. The landscape grew worse the deeper I went. The ground throbbed faster. The air thickened until it felt like trying to breathe soup. The rivers of ichor widened, churning and boiling with shapes that slithered just beneath the surface, too fast and too monstrous to see clearly. And the cages multiplied. Dozens. Hundreds. Each holding another soul. Each face twisted in silent screams. Some I recognized, people from Galesbrook, from places I had only passed through. Others were strangers. All of them trapped. All of them claimed. All of them feeding the thing that lived here. Feeding it. At the heart of it all, I saw a tower of flesh, pulsing, shifting, alive. The walls crawled with faces, some screaming, some laughing, some utterly blank. At its peak, the knot. Enormous now. A tangle of veins and thorns and bone, writhing in endless, sickly rhythm. The source. The beginning. The end. I stumbled toward it, muscles screaming, lungs burning. The ground fought me, sprouting, grasping tendrils that wrapped around my ankles, my wrists, my throat. I tore free, inch by inch. My skin tore with every step. Blood ran down my arms in sticky rivers. But I kept going. Because there was no other choice. Because behind me, the mist was rising again. Swallowing the cages. Swallowing the rivers. Swallowing everything. The world collapsing into itself, into the core. Pulling me with it. At the base of the tower, the girl waited. No longer a child. No longer even pretending. She was tall now. Thin. Her limbs impossibly long, her mouth a gaping maw of black teeth. Her eyes burned with cold fire. She barred the way. Silent. Immovable. An extension of the thing itself. Its will. Its guardian. I raised the crowbar. My battered, bloody weapon. The last real thing I had. The girl tilted her head. A mockery of sadness. A mockery of pity. She opened her mouth, and a torrent of whispers spilled out. Not words. Memories. Failures. Every moment of weakness. Every betrayal. Every regret. Every fear. They crashed into me, battering my mind, my soul, my will. I staggered. Dropped to one knee. The crowbar slipped from my fingers, clattering into the muck. The girl stepped forward. Arms outstretched. Welcoming. I could end it. Lie down. Close my eyes. Forget. Become part of the bed. Part of the story. Part of the hunger. I reached for the crowbar. Fingers trembling. Fumbling. Almost too late. Almost. I wrapped my hand around the battered metal. And I stood. I screamed, not in fear, but in rage. In defiance. In life. I charged. The girl shrieked, a sound that tore the air itself apart. The ground buckled and split. The walls of the tower writhed and bled. The faces screamed. The sky howled. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. I rammed the crowbar into her chest. Deep. Straight through. Her eyes widened, not in pain, but in surprise. As if she had never truly believed I could do it. As if, somewhere deep down, she had wanted me to. She collapsed. The ground shook. The mist recoiled. The tower shuddered, its walls splitting, bleeding. The knot at its center twisted violently, shrinking, writhing, trying to hold itself together. I tore the crowbar free and ran. Straight into the base of the tower. Straight into the heart of the thing. Straight into the end. Inside the tower, everything pulsed with sickly life. The walls were made of sinew and bone, stitched together with strands of blackened veins. Each step forward was a battle. The floor writhed and buckled beneath me, trying to throw me off, trying to trap me, trying to pull me into its endless hunger. Faces twisted in the flesh, screaming soundlessly. Hands clawed at the air, at me, at the walls. I pressed forward, toward the core, toward the end. The deeper I went, the more the air changed. Heavier, hotter, thicker. Each breath was like inhaling burning tar. The whispers grew louder, crashing together into a wall of noise, not voices anymore, but raw, mindless need. It clawed at the inside of my skull, urging me to give up, to fall to my knees, to let the bed have me. To become part of it. To finally rest. But I'd come too far for that. I staggered onward, crowbar clenched so tightly in my bleeding hand that I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. The path narrowed into a corridor of ribs and rotted wood. At its end, a light. Flickering, sickly, pulsing in time with the throbbing of the tower. The heart. I stepped into the chamber. And there it was. Suspended in the center of the room, wrapped in veins and chains and black vines. The source. The true heart of the thing. A sphere of flesh and darkness, swirling endlessly, throbbing with each tortured beat. It was beautiful in the way a rotting corpse under moonlight can be beautiful. Terrible. Majestic. Final. As I approached, the heart reacted. The vines writhed. The chains rattled. Faces pushed against the surface of the sphere, pleading, screaming, begging. I saw Marcus. I saw the girl. I saw myself. All trapped. All part of it. All feeding it. The whispers inside my head reached a fever pitch. Stay. Sleep. Forget. Become. The crowbar grew heavy in my hand, as if the very gravity of this place sought to pull it, and me, down. I gritted my teeth, forced my battered body forward. One step, then another, until I stood before it, until I could feel the heat of it against my skin. The hunger. The endless, gnawing hunger. The vines lashed out. I swung the crowbar wildly, slicing through them. They shrieked, recoiling. The heart throbbed faster, faster, the light pulsing so quickly it was almost blinding. The ground split. The walls howled. The tower began to collapse inward. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Because if I did, even for a second, it would win. I lifted the crowbar high, and I struck. The impact was like hitting a living thing. The heart buckled under the blow, shrieking in a soundless wail that vibrated every bone in my body. The crowbar sank deep into the pulsing mass. Black ichor exploded outward, coating me, burning my skin. The vines thrashed wildly. The chains snapped and recoiled. The faces on the surface twisted and screamed. But I pulled the crowbar free and struck again. And again. And again. Each blow tearing more of the heart away, each blow weakening the thing that had haunted me, owned me, fed on me. The heart split. Cracks raced across its surface like lightning. The light inside flickered, then dimmed. The tower around me shook violently, the very bones of the place crumbling, screaming. And then, with a final, shuddering groan, the heart shattered. Light. Blinding, searing light. A wind roared outward, ripping the vines from the walls, tearing the flesh from the floors. The faces were torn free, ascending into the light, laughing, crying, screaming. The mist fled, shrieking as it dissolved. The flesh tower disintegrated. The world unraveled. I was thrown upward, weightless, spinning, through the collapsing remains of the nightmare, through the splintered memories, through the broken dreams, through the endless dark. And then, silence. I landed hard, on grass, real grass, under a pale morning sky. The air was cool and clean. The scent of earth and growing things filled my lungs. I lay there for a long time, staring at the sky, the crowbar still clutched in my torn, bloody hand. Listening. Waiting. But there were no whispers. No tapping. No laughter. Only the rustle of leaves in the breeze. Only the distant call of a bird. Only life. Real life. I sat up slowly. The town of Galesbrook was gone. Only a field remained, wild and overgrown, dotted with the crumbling stones of long-forgotten foundations. The house. The bed. The nightmare. All gone. I was free. Finally, truly free. The crack inside me, the wound the bed had carved into my soul, was still there. It would always be there. But it was empty now. Silent. Healed. I stood, took a breath, and walked away, not looking back. Not this time. Because some things are better left behind. Some doors are better left unopened. Some beds are better left empty. Forever. Weeks passed. Maybe months. I drifted from town to town, always moving, never staying anywhere long. Not because I was afraid. Not anymore. But because the world, the real world, felt different now. Sharper. More fragile. Like a sheet of thin glass stretched tight over something vast and hungry. And I had seen what lurked beneath that glass. Once you've seen it, truly seen it, you can never unsee. I lived simply. Cash jobs. Roadside motels. A backpack and a jacket and a crowbar wrapped in an old towel. I kept it with me everywhere, not because I needed it, but because it was a reminder of who I had been, of what I had survived, of the price of forgetting. Some nights, when the wind howled just right, I thought I heard it. The tapping. Faint. Distant. A memory more than a threat. It would fade with the morning sun, burned away like mist. Other nights, the dreams came. Not nightmares, not anymore. Just flashes. The girl in white, standing at the edge of a field, watching me. Her face was whole now. Her stitched mouth healed. Her eyes sad. But free. She never spoke. Never moved. Just watched. As if waiting. As if guarding. Maybe some part of her had survived too. Maybe some small broken piece of her had been released when the heart shattered. Maybe she was just another ghost. Like me. One night, months later, I found myself at a diner off some forgotten stretch of highway. The kind of place that smelled like old coffee and fried regret. I sat in a booth by the window, nursing a cup of coffee that tasted like burnt pennies, staring out at the endless black of the desert night. A kid, maybe 17, maybe 20, slid into the seat across from me. Skinny, pale, eyes too wide, too hollow. He didn't say anything at first, just stared. I knew that look. Recognition. Not of me. Of what was inside me. Of what I had seen. He had seen it too. Maybe not the bed. Maybe not the house. But something. Some doorway best left closed. Some hunger best left unfed. After a long moment he spoke. Voice trembling. Raw. How you make it stop? I met his gaze. Held it. Felt the weight of his question settle between us like a stone. The truth was simple. Brutal. Beautiful. You don't, I said quietly. You survive it. You carry it. You move forward. One step at a time. He nodded slowly. Swallowed hard. Wiped his eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. Then he stood. Left without another word. The door jingled behind him. And I sat there, staring into my coffee, listening to the empty diner breathe around me. The world is full of cracks. Places where the fabric of reality wears thin. Where the old hungers leak through. Most people are lucky enough never to find them. Most people never know how close they live to the edge. But some of us, the broken ones, the restless ones, the ones who go looking, we find them, or they find us. And once they do, you're never the same. You can survive. You can heal. You can live. But you'll always hear it. At the edge of dreams. At the corners of empty rooms. At the bottom of a silent well. The tapping. The whispering. The invitation. stay, sleep, forget, become. I finished my coffee, left a few crumpled bills on the table, walked out into the cold desert night. The stars overhead were endless, sharp, beautiful. The road stretched ahead of me, empty and waiting. I took a breath, stepped forward, one step, then another, and I kept walking toward whatever came next, toward whatever cracks I would find, or whatever cracks would find me. Because that's what we do, those of us who survive. We walk, we carry it, and we endure. I thought it was over. I believed it. Months passed. The dreams grew rarer. The tapping faded. The world felt solid beneath my feet again. I laugh sometimes. I let myself breathe. I let myself hope. Then the letter arrived. No return address. No postage stamp. Just a simple worn envelope slipped under the door of whatever roadside motel I happened to be calling home that night. Inside, a photograph. Old, black and white, edges curling with age. It showed a house. Not Holloway Place. Another house. Somewhere else. It leaned to one side, its windows hollow, its roof sagging under the weight of time. But at its center, nailed to the front door, was something unmistakable. A bed. An ancient, rotting bed frame, warped and twisted, and carved into the wood. That symbol. The knot. I stared at the photo for a long time. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I was long past fear. Long past surprise. The world is full of cracks, and the hunger never dies. It just moves. It just waits. It just finds a new place to root itself, a new place to grow, a new place to feed. I folded the photo carefully, slipped it into my jacket pocket, picked up my battered backpack, and stepped out into the night. The road stretched before me, dark and endless. The stars burned cold and sharp overhead. Somewhere out there, another house waited. Another crack. Another battlefield. And me? I was ready. Not because I was a hero. Not because I was fearless. But because I was tired of running. Because someone had to stand between the cracks and the people who never even knew how close they lived to the edge. Someone had to fight. Someone had to endure. And for now, that someone was me. I shouldered my backpack, tightened my grip on the crowbar, and I walked into the darkness, toward the next haunting, toward the next war, toward whatever waited beyond the next broken door. Because I knew one thing now, better than anything else. You can burn the house, You can shatter the bed. You can tear the hunger apart with your bare hands. But you can never destroy it completely. Not while there are cracks. Not while there are dreams. Not while there are people foolish enough, brave enough, desperate enough to answer the tapping at the door. And when it calls, when it whispers through the dark, when it knocks softly at the edges of the world, I'll be there, waiting, watching, fighting. Because if I don't, who will? Somewhere far away, in some forgotten corner of nowhere, a child stirs in her sleep. She shifts under her covers, whimpering. In the shadows, at the edge of her small, cluttered room, something waits. Patient. Smiling. Not a monster. Not a ghost. Just a shape. A memory. A crack. It watches her. Not with hate. Not with anger. But with hunger. Ancient. Endless. Outside, the wind rattles the old shutters. The trees creak against the walls. The pipes groan in the crawlspace. All the normal sounds of an old house breathing through the night. Almost enough to drown out the faint, steady sound coming from under the bed. Almost. Tap, tap, tap. The child stirs again, eyes fluttering open in the darkness. She listens, confused, afraid. Her tiny hand reaches for the bedside lamp. Her fingers brush the switch. Almost. Almost. Tap, tap, tap. The noise grows louder. More insistent. More hungry. She whispers into the darkness. Who's there? The tapping stops. Silence. Thick. Smothering. Waiting. And then, from the darkness under the bed, a voice. Soft. Sweet. Familiar. Come home.
The tale is over, but the darkness remains. Subscribe, or stay forever, in the silence between screams.